Hey guys, welcome back. So I don't have my earbuds today, so audio quality will be different. I don't know if it'll be better or worse, but I suspect it'll be worse. So anyway, we're gonna get this AC dryer installed, and we're trying to figure out before we can install it where we're gonna put it. So right here you can see the intercooler in all its glory. Here's like a side view, so you can see the radiator, the AC condenser with the green cap, and then the intercooler is spaced off a little bit. So we plan to install, so basically we're going to put this dryer somewhere, and I'll show you. I mean, you got like here all the way to there. You can see it can move a little bit. So there's a decent amount of room here to put it, and this would be desirable for a few reasons. One, you've got your liquid line from your condenser right there, and funny enough, if you just go a few more inches over back here, and I can't really point here, that's the other hose that we need to hook to. That's the liquid line that goes to the front. So essentially, right in this region, that's where we want the dryer so that the hoses are as short as possible to save weight. So for example, we're not putting this on the driver's side. It's definitely going over here somewhere. Now, if I start to move it towards the engine bay side, that could get in the way of running belts or something else. Yeah, there is some room there, but I'd much rather avoid that if possible. Like say if I'm pulling a motor, I want all that to be empty so the engine can come forward, things like that. So we're kind of thinking outside of the frame rail in this area. But here's the couple of concerns. You can see this charge pipe. It kind of comes out, it goes backwards, it angles up a little, and then it turns and goes up. That may get changed in the future. In fact, it probably will. And the pipes may even go through this area I just talked about, somewhere in this region. And I could do that with a charge pipe because it's easy to remove. Whereas if I put this if I put the dryer there, I'd have to let the Freon out and vacuum charge the system every time I pulled an engine. So anyway, that's one consideration. And then here's another. So you see this intercooler. This intercooler is 12 inches tall and 3 inches thick, but I want to go to a bigger one. And if I do, you can tell there's a little bit of space between the condenser and the intercooler, but there's a good amount of room in front of the heat exchanger. Look at that, nice big gap. So we could definitely put a thicker intercooler. Also, this one is, the core is 20 inches across this direction. So we may want to get a bigger core lengthwise as well, you know, 24, 26, I don't know, something bigger. And perhaps even taller. This one's 12 inches tall. You can see we actually have several inches of room from the top of the stack down to the top of the intercooler. So we could definitely put an intercooler that's taller, thicker, and longer. But we want to keep that in mind when we place this dryer. If we put the dryer, maybe we put it where it's easy to install now, and then when I want to upgrade my intercooler, it's right in the way. So you'll note on the bottom of this intercooler, that's where the pipes go in and out. It's really at the bottom. And you can tell it's just barely above the bottom. Now a lot of performance intercoolers, this pipe is more towards the middle, which helps get more even distribution of airflow. I'm sure this one's horrible. Most of the air probably just shoots across like this. And I doubt hardly anything's actually going way up there and flowing. It just, you know, you get flow separation. Right here, it's not going to want to turn and follow that, so we know we want to change that, which means this pipe here, from this view, we expect this pipe to get moved up in the future, for sure, to have better, even more even distribution, and we also expect it to possibly move forward because if the intercooler gets thicker, the center line of that pipe will get moved forward as well. So basically, the worst place we could put this would be right in the center, and slightly shifted this way. That's about the worst place we could put it. So instead, I think we're going to end up trying to package it over this way. So if you look at this cross section, see where the condenser kind of lines up? We know the intercooler isn't going anywhere, it can't go closer, it'll run into the condenser. So basically, if we put it in this region, we know we're safe from the intercooler. Now you can tell one of the problems we're running into now is we don't have much distance. Look at this. I mean, there's, you know, a half of an inch or something. It ain't much. And then we're almost running into that pipe, so definitely got space constraints. But the thing is, we're probably going to change that in the future. If I redo this intercooler, that pipe will probably come out here. It'll probably go straight across instead of angling, and then that direction and up about in front of the back of the radiator up to the throttle body. Kind of a more conventional routing. So this is kind of the planning phase. Now that we've kind of looked at perhaps not everything. We've looked at a lot of things, and it looks like we're probably going to want to put this, you know, kind of lined up with the condenser, but behind the intercooler as high up as possible, not hitting that pipe. So it's probably going to end up going something like this. Now, one other thing to keep in mind with a dryer, these have what's called a sight glass. So if you look at the top of this dryer, there's actually a little piece of clear, whatever that is, quartz or glass or something. And this lets you see the Freon going through. So I believe you want to see a clear sight glass, which means it's a... I'd have to look, I can't remember. I better go check how you hook this up before I install it. I'm pretty sure it goes on the liquid line. But if you see it flashing or something, that means it's a gas, not a liquid, and that's bad. I think that's how that works. But if we put it there, you'll see there's sheet metal, but if we come up here, we could drill a hole to get access. So you can see there's a tiny little square there already. I kind of doubt that's gonna... Yeah, it's a little too close. We'll have to come this way some, but it looks like we'll just be able to drill a hole kind of in front of that square, and that'll give us a view of the sight glass as well. The only downside to that spot, it may be obstructed by the headlight, but that's okay. Pulling the headlight's fairly easy. Bumper comes off quick, and the headlight's just a couple bolts. So from looking at this, that's what I think. We're gonna have to... This is gonna go somewhere in this region, and I have no idea how we're gonna do a bracket yet. We do have a steel frame right there. We do have something with threads right there. But I don't see anything over there. It looks like maybe there's something behind this silicone. Maybe right there. I don't know if I really want to build a bracket that extends to both of those. So maybe we'll just build something and weld it to the car. I'm not really sure. But I do think that's where this is going to go. And the cool thing is, if it does, you can see right here, I mean, this line is going to be just a few inches. It'll be short as hell. And the other one will probably come 90 down and go into the car and hook into this line. So it should be pretty, I think it's that line. One of those lines. Should be pretty straightforward as well. So anyway, that's kind of the planning of this. Figured I'd show you guys that. Alright, so since this is cylindrical, we're going to build basically a split circle that bolts around it. So I had a piece of pipe. I actually cut this off my muffler. This was some stainless that came on the muffler. And I basically cut a length of it that's like 1 3/8 in this dimension. And then we split it in half, and then this was a little bit too big, so I basically took some pliers and just bent it in a little bit smaller, and then split it. Well, I split it and then bent it. As you can see here, it fits fine. It's not perfect, but plenty good enough for what it's about to be. So that makes our split clamps. Now we're gonna probably weld some tabs. So basically it'll have a flange, and then these two will bolt together like that and grab the dryer. Well, just got done welding these. So I'm sure they warped a little because it's, you know, metal does that, but easy enough to bend back on a vise or with a hammer. So we'll get these cleaned up and see how they fit. Then we got to drill holes and thread one side, and we still got to build the part that actually attaches to the car. This is just what attaches to the dryer. Oh, here it is. We've made this little piece here, and these holes are just tap drill size right now. We're going to put it on the car and use a Sharpie to mark the body, and then maybe try to drill through this to get the tap drill on the car, and then we'll go back and open these up at the end. Yeah, check this weld out. Who knew that if you clean all the mill scale off, it would weld better? But hey, got this knocked out. They do fit, so about to start mocking this up on the car now. Alright, so we just threw it up here and put a clamp on one tab to kind of hold it in place. Let's see. Well, you can't see because I don't have the light on. There we go. There's a small gap at the top. It's not touching, but it's 1/8 inch or so. And you can see this line we drew. So this is the line that I didn't want the edge of this to go that way. It can't go any further. So you can see we actually got it pushed away from it some. And that's to give some extra room for this one fitting because I got this brace right in the way. What we discovered earlier is that the particular fittings I have, which I only have one of, actually runs into this, and I had to bend it a little bit to get it to clear. But I gotta buy new ones anyway, so I'll try to just buy some that fit. But worst case, we'll bend them if we have to. But yeah, so we're gonna have to drill and tap 2 holes in the body. So what we did was we clamped the easy one first, and we're gonna do the hard one. So we clamped on the easy one, and we're gonna work on this one first, and we'll do the easy one last. So now we're just gonna take a Sharpie, throw a mark in that hole, pop this thing off, and drill that tap drill size. I've never drilled through the frame here, so I don't know what to expect. I mean, it should be kind of thick since it's the frame. It's probably multiple layers. But I'm hoping I can just drill that tap drill, run a tap through it, put a bolt in, and be done. This thing doesn't weigh much, so it's not like it's under a lot of load. So here we go. Alright, well that was easier than it should have been. That took like less than a minute, or well, maybe less than 2 minutes. But we got that hole. We're about to bolt it up there and see what happens. Alright, we got that one bolt in. You can see it's don't have a clamp anymore. Now we got to mark and drill that other one and then tap it and put a bolt in that one. So if I was Project Binky, I'd put my little level on here right now and say make the noise, but I don't have it. But this looks pretty good, as you can see. So here goes the second one. Just figured I'd show you guys this. That's the Sharpie mark we just did. Look at that. AC Drier done. Finally. I like how this turned out. It's pretty much out of the way. We got it reasonably close up there. There's a tiny gap, but not much. We'll probably pop a hole up there just so we can see the sight glass. This has this back piece is threaded back here, so there's no nut to deal with. You just run the bolt right in and out. These are quarter 20 socket head cap screws, so you can just grab a 3/16 T-handle Allen for easy installation and removal. We staggered the bolts. As you can see, I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to move the camera back and zoom in. But you can see they're on a different plane, so that way it doesn't, you can either unbolt just the dryer or you can unbolt the assembly. You have access to either one. We got it behind the intercooler, as you can see, like we talked about. And that should give us room to do a larger intercooler in the future. Pretty happy with this. And then we also got it in front of that line a little bit, so we should have enough room to get our fitting out on that side. So yeah, boom, custom bracket done. Let's see, that took, it's 3:30, probably took, let's just say 3 hours. I'm not really sure. It did kind of take a while, but we had to find some of this. This had to look for this piece, took a minute, and then bending it, cutting it, making our tabs was pretty easy. Welding the tabs, and I was kind of going slow. I didn't want to screw this up because I hate doing stuff twice. So I kind of laid everything out on the table and tack welded it and checked the alignment before I went and welded them out. And but yeah, this turned out good. So finally making more progress. Also, we'll paint this later. So there's probably going to be a bunch of little custom brackets like this that end up getting on the car. So for now, we're just going to get it running, and then say this winter or something, we'll take stuff apart and paint it. So like this, if this had the AC fittings on it, I could actually take this bracket off and leave the AC fittings hooked up. You would just basically loosen these two bolts, or take these two bolts out, and this cover on the top comes out. And then if I loosen the back bolts, the whole back of the bracket would slide down, and I could remove it and just leave it hanging on the hoses. So I will be able to remove this to paint it later, whenever it's time to do that. So anyway, yay for progress.